Hey guys, and welcome to another video. This is going to be the start of a tutorial or guide series that we're going to do here for Factorio, now that there's going to be a whole bunch of new players, and I'm joined by a very special guest, MadZuri.
Greetings.
Yeah, so how you doing? You doing good?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. A little excited, actually.
Awesome. So, for anyone who doesn't know, Zuri is probably one of the most experienced Factorio players there is. So he's gonna, help explain stuff, and he can really go into the detailed, more in-depth stuff to really give you a good idea of how all that's gonna work. So we're starting out here in our map generator in the free play mode, and we're just going to go over the map settings really quick and then load up the multiplayer game and get into it. So you have your frequency, your size, and your richness settings here for your resources as well as the enemies. And do you want to go over what each of what richness, size, and frequency does, Zuri?
Sure thing. So I'll start off with frequency. Frequency, for the most part, think of like a sine wave if you know much math. It doesn't change the overall amount, but it does change how big and how far spaced out it is. So on a very low frequency, the patches or the enemy bases are further apart, but they're bigger. So it's about the same either way. It's just how big and how far apart they are.
Right.
Next is size. The size is just scaled up a bit and down. It's pretty intuitive. It makes as much sense as you think.
Yeah.
And with richness, for ores anyway, it controls how big or how much ore is in each little square. And that just scales up with richness. But for enemy bases, it controls the spawn rate, or how many can spawn in a single area. So you expect to see more enemies with a higher richness.
Exactly. Awesome. And then we have just a few other settings here. We have terrain segmentation, which I believe it essentially determines like how segmented the terrain is. There's multiple different terrain types in the game. So higher settings would make it more segmented, and lower ones would obviously make it lower. And then your starting area down here, you have either none or very big. And the starting area essentially is just the how big of an area is enemy free when you start out, right? So medium is default. It'll give you just pretty much a medium-sized area where there's guaranteed to be no enemies. None is pretty much instant death, and then the bigger you make it, just the more space you have.
The spawning area, or starting area, also changes the land and lakes in that circle. That's why sometimes you'll see, if you set the water settings too high, you'll see like an island, because it replaces the water that was there with the island it makes. And if there's land there, it adds the tiny lakes you can use as a temporary border.
Right, yeah. Very good point. So that about covers it. Another important setting down here is the peaceful mode, which if you check this, it has a little description right here. It essentially makes it so that the enemies will never attack you until you actually go and do something to them. So on default, it's off, and what will happen is the enemies will periodically come and attack you, based on the amount of pollution you produce and stuff, which we'll go into later. But if you have peaceful mode on, they'll never attack you, and you can actually just walk right next to them as long as you don't shoot them or damage any of their structures. And then you just have your, you can determine the map size, and you have a map seed as well if you want to, you know, get a map that's pretty much the same as another one. So I'm going to go ahead and generate the map here. We've changed a few things. We have some bigger iron and copper patches and oil as well. And then I've lowered the size of the enemy bases to small because when you get really late into the game, even on the default settings, it becomes really ridiculous how big they are and how many bases there are. Alrighty, so the game is up, and we'll just wait for Zuri to join here. Awesome.
Ta-da!
Sweet. So one quick thing you might have noticed when I first spawned in, that a part of the map was already revealed, and then pretty quickly sections were revealed around it. That's because we're using just a very simple mod called initial map scan, and what this does is it just scans the whole of your starting area, or a little bigger, so that you kind of know what's around you without having to walk around and figure it out. So
We're a little sparse here, but better than nothing.
yeah, I mean, we can probably work with this. I did increase the richness a bit. Okay, so pretty much we'll just start with the basics here. You're gonna need to make an iron axe, because otherwise you're gonna be mining stuff with a walking stick and it's gonna take forever.
Alright, I found some trees. That's good.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, if you spawn somewhere with no trees, you're pretty much gonna have to restart, because you need the trees to make your initial power poles for power, and obviously without those you can't get anything to work. So,
and normally first up is a little bit of iron mining.
exactly. So yeah, iron is in the early game, you're gonna need a ton of it. You're gonna need it more than pretty much anything else, and it's important to start with it, because everything we build from this point on is gonna take iron. And you can see Zuri put down a few machines here, the burner mining drill and the stone furnace. The mining drill will automatically mine resources for you as long as it has fuel, but you do have to put fuel in it. As you can see, I'm putting coal. That's why it's a burner miner. It doesn't run off electricity. And then the furnace simply just smelts the ore into a plate, a usable form. And stone here, we just need some stone because the furnaces take stone, and you need the furnace obviously for the smelting, and then the burner miner actually takes a furnace as well. When you mouse over an item, you can see exactly what it takes, how long it will take, and the stats for it.
Yeah, I'd like to get five miners up and running as soon as possible. And then I'll start working on putting coal.
Right, okay. Yeah. I mean, we each obviously have different play styles for sure. Everyone plays a little bit differently, but Zuri's right. You will definitely want quite a lot of iron miners. And just you'll notice that I took some iron just straight out of here without actually dragging it to my inventory. There's some handy hotkeys. If you control left click it, it'll take everything, all the finished products, or pretty much anything you click. It'll take it all and put it into your inventory without you having to drag and drop it. So, how quickly do you usually like to get power up and running?
Not as fast as you'd think. Like I said, at least 5 of these going before I start working on anything else.
Okay, fair enough. So there's obviously copper as well, but we don't need very much of that right now. We'll need a little bit once we go to get power going, but for now it's pretty much iron.
I got a neat trick for you over here if you want to see it.
Yeah, yeah, so, so Zuri, this is something very good to show. You can definitely explain that if you want.
All right, so you can feed 2 burning mining drills into each other, and they'll stay fed.
Right.
Normally I wouldn't feed a box like this. I'd feed a belt that goes to the boilers. So this is actually getting starved out, and that's not a good thing.
Right. Yeah, so...
But yeah, you just put 2 of these facing each other. You can walk by and control click it to pull the coal out, and it works just fine.
Yeah, so this is really handy rather than having multiple ones with just tons of boxes or whatever. You can put them into each other, and you can do this with more than 2, obviously. You can do 4 as long as you just face each one into the next one.
But the trick that most people don't know about is that burner inserters will pull coal out of a burning mining drill.
Interesting, okay. So yeah, because normally inserters won't pull out of, like they won't pull out of anything really except, assembling machines and boxes and stuff like that, but these burner miners are an exception. And a quick note here, you'll see the yellow arrows pointing towards stuff, and you'll see the little icons over things. This is because I have advanced info turned on, and you can toggle this by default with the left alt key. And this can be really useful to figure out where the outputs actually are for something without just watching and waiting to see it.
I don't like that that's off by default. I think that should be on.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's extremely useful, and because a lot of times you'll see like newer players like take screenshots or something asking for advice, and they don't have it on. So none of these icons are on, so it's extremely difficult to tell for yourself and anyone else what's going on. So then if you control right click onto something, it puts half of whatever you're holding into the thing you can see here. And that's really useful. And also if you control right click over stuff, as I'm doing, it takes half of it out if you don't have anything in your hand.
All right, so where do you want to put power now?
Right, so at this point we need to set up power. That's a good question. Power is pretty, consumes quite a bit of space, so we need, see here. Because we'll want to get to these resources over here in the northeast, so we probably don't want to block that. Maybe like off one of these lakes over here, kind of to the side that's going to be out of the way. And I guess while we have a little bit of downtime, it's probably a good thing to go over pollution, because that is that's a pretty major thing. And that's what's going to mostly trigger your the attacks from the enemies, is your pollution. So let's see here. Again, with advanced info on, you can see there's kind of a dark brownish reddish cloud, and you can see it kind of flickers sometimes out. That's because it's spreading. And it's important to pay attention to this at least a little bit, because when this starts hitting the enemy bases, which currently we don't have any that we've revealed yet, but when it starts hitting them, it's going to provoke attacks fairly shortly afterwards.
And always explore past the edge of your pollution cloud. That's what I'm doing right now. I don't like the pollution cloud hitting the edge of.
Right.
And bad things happen.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a very good point, to explore outside your pollution, because if there's a base that is not been revealed but it's in your pollution cloud, you can definitely get attacked and not really know where it's from. And pretty much every machine you're going to build will generate pollution. There are some that don't. For example, science labs don't themselves. Neither do the steam engines themselves. But in essence, they kind of do, based on the power they draw if you're using steam power, because your boilers, which you use to heat the water, produce quite a large amount of pollution. Alrighty, I think we're about ready to set up power.
I got 2 boilers, and that's about it.
Alright, I'm gonna build, say, like 5 steam engines to start with. Now this would probably be something good for you to go over, because you're really good with the ratios and stuff, and there's a specific ratio for these steam engines and boilers to make them run at full efficiency, and I thought I knew it for a long time, and I was actually wrong, so...
Alright, well, if you open up your crafting menu, you mouse over the boiler, it says 390 kilowatts, and the steam engine says 510 kilowatts.
Right.
So if you work out the ratios, that's 17 to 13. But something the game data doesn't tell you is that steam engines consume 6 water per second at max capacity, and offshore pumps produce 60 units of water per second.
Right.
So at most, each offshore pump can only feed 10 steam engines.
Exactly.
So that turns out to about 13.01 or so boilers. But you always want to have rounding up on the supply side on pretty much everything in Factorio.
Yeah, very, very good point. Because if you round down, things are going to, it may be slowly, but things are going to lose efficiency and just not work as good as they could, possibly. So this early part of the game is just kind of running around a little bit like a chicken with its head cut off. Is you just gotta kind of run between your resource patches and collect stuff. But then once you get power, you can really start automating stuff, which is where the real fun of the game begins and what it's really about.
Oh, you can transfer things to other people's inventory, by the way. I just gave you some boilers.
Oh yeah, you did. Yeah, good point. So you can do it the same way as transferring stuff to a machine. If you just control left click, you can transfer stuff. So I'm going to give him the fish back.
Oh, you don't like my fish?
Maybe not, man. I'm not a huge fan of fish. So yeah, now we just got to figure out where to put the power. I'm thinking over here somewhere that's out of the way. Now you do want your power fairly close because otherwise you're going to need a huge amount of power pulls to get the power over to your stuff, and that can be a little bit of a pain. So if I look here, I see that there is, we do have a coal patch here, but there's also a very small one down here, which if we wanted, we could just use, just dedicate that for fueling our boilers. So it probably wouldn't hurt to just build power kind of over here. So to start off, you definitely don't have to do a full thing of 10 steam engines because you won't need that for a little while. So if you're short on resources, you can just do a part of the setup and it should work fine. So the end ratio is 1 pump to 14 boilers to 10 steam engines, correct?
1:14:10? Yes.
Yeah. So that is the best ratio to get the most efficiency and the most you can out of your power. And so right now I'm going to do about half. I've put down 7 boilers, and I'm going to do 5 steam engines. I have 6, but I'll just do 5 for now, which should be more than enough to last us for a little while. And by the way, you can rotate items with R. Pretty intuitive, but now, Zuri, do you prefer to use burner inserters or normal inserters for fueling these boilers?
Definitely burner inserters. They don't have the whole positive feedback loop thing that powered inserters have.
Right. So, yeah, we'll get into that more later, but burner inserters are definitely good for this. Essentially, they don't require power to use. They just require a fuel, and they will fuel themselves if you do have fuel going to them. So right now we've manually put a little bit of fuel in here, and you can see that things are starting to kick on here. So when you mouse over a steam engine, you can see the amount of water, the performance, and the available performance. For things to work properly, the water needs to be 100 degrees, which is obviously done through the boilers, and we seem to have a little bit of an issue where it's actually not.
It's because we haven't started research, so there's no power draw, so there's nothing consuming the water.
Right. So
it'll heat up as soon as you start something, and I suggest automation.
Yeah. So if we open our research window with T, there's a ton of researches here, but automation, as Zuri mentioned, is definitely the best one to start with. Usually, I mean, sometimes you can start with military if you want, with turrets or just military to get your weapons. But automation will get you your assembling machines and another type of inserter that should make things a lot easier. And as you can see, as Zuri had pointed out, the temperature will increase, and the available performance is essentially how much your steam engine can output. So once this reaches 100 degrees, you'll see that the bar down there at the bottom is full, and then the performance is how much is actually being drawn. So you can see there's pretty much almost nothing, and that's because we're only using one thing here that takes electricity.
I've got another neat trick in mind for this.
Alrighty.
That tiny little stone patch. You'll see in a moment.
Alright, so this should be interesting. And while he gets ready for that, now you can build these electric mining drills, which are slightly better than the burner ones in terms of speed and mining power. You can look at the statistics here. And they run off of power, so you don't have to fuel them. You just have to get power to them with the electrical poles.
Hurry up, research. Come on now.
So a good thing to do, talk about with the research is your labs can stack. So the effectiveness of them. So one is going to research at normal speed. If you put another one, it's going to double the speed that the research happens. And then if you do 3, it's going to triple it, so on and so forth. So you can add more labs to speed things up.
Ta-da!
Oh wow, very interesting. I've almost never seen that done. So yeah, essentially what Zuri's done here is just automated the production of stone furnaces very simply by just having the miner mine straight into the assembling machine rather than a box or onto a belt. Which is a pretty awesome idea.
And since it forces ore because of the miner, it'll build until the stack size inside of it's complete. So every time you need some furnaces, just walk by, control-click the plant, and you got a stack of 50.
Exactly. So that's actually a really neat trick. So this is the kind of awesome stuff he's going to show us, because I never would have thought of that. So now that research is done, we can begin another research if we want. There's many different kinds, obviously. And at this point, it's a little more open to what you can do. I think logistics is probably the next best thing, because it's going to give us a third type of inserter and some stuff that will really help us with using belts. So I'm going to go down and set up a little coal, so these boilers can actually be fueled automatically. And when you place a miner down, you see that there is like a green square around it. That's the coverage area. It is one tile bigger than the miner itself. And now we're going to need some transport belt, which is where you can really have a lot of fun or give yourself headaches.
I may have spent too much time with transport belts.
Yeah, possibly a little bit. Yeah, there's some pretty crazy stuff you can do with them, all kinds of balancers and rebalancers, and I'm not good at that. Zuri, on the other hand, is very good at that.
This is just a really quick and dirty science build.
Right. So,
Yeah.
yeah, if you just if you want to explain really quick what's going on here.
Well, I've got the red science packs automated. Those require a copper plate and an iron gear wheel. I'll set up probably next episode my standard red-green science build.
Okay.
But for now, we just want to be able to put it into some science labs.
Right. Yeah, so this will speed things up. As long as we give it the materials it needs, then it will just automatically put them in the science labs and do the research. And there are 4 types of science, by the way. We only have 2 unlocked now, and each one gets more complicated. The last one is actually pretty simple. It can just be difficult to get the ingredients. So yeah, as we progress, we'll go over those, but the different science packs, obviously, as you advance in science levels, are going to require more, and then they're also going to require the different ones. Here, there's red, green, blue, and purple.
The funny thing is, when you dump off all your stuff for the boxes, you don't have any more to craft it with.
Oh yeah, that's always fun.
Sometimes I don't think ahead of these things.
Yeah, I definitely run into that a lot as well. So yeah, this whole time, these guys have just been sitting here getting us a ton of iron. As you can see, our pollution has spread. And it will, I believe, there is wind, correct?
I'm not sure if the wind mechanic works or not. It exists in the game, like it does change, but I'm not sure if it actually does anything.
Yeah, it's kind of unclear because you'll notice the pollution is spreading a little bit more down here to the west, but I don't know if that's just random or if it's possibly the wind.
It very possibly is the trees to the northeast that's preventing it from spreading in that direction.
Right. Yeah, that's a very good point to bring up.
Yeah, trees naturally eat pollution, but the problem also is that pollution eats trees.
Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of two-way street there. The trees will slow down the pollution, but the pollution, as MadZuri said, will also just kind of eat away at the trees. And water also slows down pollution as well, I believe.
Water is about as effective at stopping pollution as deserts are, which is not at all really. Pollution spreads across water with a quickness.
Really? Okay, I had the impression it slowed it, but... So now we just need to just wait for the coal to come over here. We have 1 miner, which may or may not be enough for this. And I think we might actually call this an episode. I believe this one's actually about 30 minutes, which is a little long.
Row. Sorry.
No, not your fault. I need to be paying attention to this stuff. So I believe that's going to be it, guys. Hopefully this kind of gave you a good introduction to Factorio and the basics, and hopefully future episodes won't be quite as long. I need to pay a little better attention. But yeah, I think that's it. So thank you for joining me, MadZuri.
You're welcome. Anytime.
And next episode we will set up some more automated science here, and MadZuri can do some awesome builds with that. So if you have any questions, let me know down in the comments, and any suggestions as well. But until next time, we look forward to seeing you.
Bye.